Hello there. France is teetering on the edge of civil war as the people stand up and say, no more. Whether we like it or not, France, and probably much of the developed world, will go through some form of revolution in the coming years or decades. A revolution of culture, one way or the other. It's coming. And untrammelled immigration from certain areas of the world will be the root cause, and most people now recognise this. Except our ruling classes, who, all for some obscure reason, want to bring this on. And it seems that the outcome they wish to see is a cultural revolution in the favour of newcomers. Something that could cause another type of revolution, one our elites won't like very much. Writing in the Telegraph today, Anne-Elisabeth Moutet ran with an article saying that France could be on the brink of civil war. It all sounds a bit far-fetched, doesn't it? Or does it? Given current events in France and across Europe, maybe the whole region has not been this close to unrest for many a decade. For decades, governments have avoided looking too closely at the worsening situation. We are now reaching a tipping point, she writes. And in her article, she reminds us of the letter that 100 senior French officers and 1,000 other military personnel sent to President Macron, that there was a risk of chaos that could lead to civil war, so necessitating a military intervention in a dangerous mission to protect our civilizational values and safeguard our compatriots. But this was, of course, dismissed as irrelevant people talking a load of sensationalist conspiracy rubbish. But maybe the French military have more of a handle on current events than elected French politicians do, where people are saying they get no help, but the newcomers get everything. And many are worried about the lack of assimilation. And we've all seen what's going on in Dublin. And it's all driven by a very unhealthy dedication to open borders by our associated governments. And in both the Republic of Ireland and France, the political response, just like in the UK, is to call all open border dissenters far right and crack down on them for the sake of what they say is peace and safety. And in Ireland, they're about to pass the most draconian laws in the modern era to enhance their sort of government. That of restricting people's freedoms for the common good. Soon also coming to a government near you. Haven't we been hearing about a conspiracy theory along these lines over the last few years? Anyway, the authorities are trying that on here in the UK by singling out and cracking down on a certain Mr. Robinson. But his support base is only growing as a result, not diminishing. No wonder the powers that be want him locked up again. It seems that our Western governments have decided that their voter bases need their collective noses rubbed in ever-increasing diversity. Permanently. And they've encouraged the so-called progressive Marxists to march through the institutions to the point that the establishments can now openly defy the people and dictate how the nation's cultures change, as well as developing controlling policies like net zero that can be used against their own people, and set up shadowy nudge units to steer us in the correct direction. But the downtrodden populace are now getting wise to all of this. And it's not the recent riots that should concern our elites. No, just take a quick look at the comment section under the aforementioned Telegraph article and you get a very good snapshot of how many people are increasingly feeling. And it looks like many of them see the same direction of travel for the UK. With the main message being that the politicians themselves are the main drivers of this problem, because they are the ones in the ivory towers allowing it all to happen, nay, encouraging it. They are the ones who have imported conflict. and they all make promises to do something about it, but never ever deliver. And further, many people are fed up with having their concerns about this automatically being labelled as far right. And the words incompatible with our values and reference to a certain demographic are quite frequent amongst the comments, with many commentators saying they're fed up with the lack of response of the UK government to a slow-motion collapse in social cohesion and a developing two-tier policing and legal system. Now, there will be some out there who will point at Brexit as the reason for all of this, but I don't recall either Ireland or France exiting the EU. So what's the excuse there? All it shows is that all governments have been captured by the joint UN and WEF agenda, and how skillfully they have, so far, been able to lay the blame for every resulting problem at the feet of the far right, as they like to label ordinary concerned people who pay all the bills through taxation. And that's just something else that gets people's backs up and more likely to take to the streets. But now we hear that COP28, starting tomorrow in Dubai, will see the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, the FAO, call for an end to the eating of meat, or at least greatly reduce its consumption. So a group of over 65,000 people, who will have flown many hundreds of thousands of miles between them to stay at luxurious places in Dubai and be fed handsomely, will be once again telling us we cannot travel, eat meat or heat our homes. The upcoming United Nations Climate Summit in Dubai will be the first to dedicate a full day to exploring climate action across food, agriculture and water. Reports fooddive.com, and it goes on to say, in an acknowledgement of the livestock sector's impact on climate, 2/3 of the food served at the summit will be plant-based. So that makes 1/3 of it livestock-based then. Now I'll ask the basic question. From getting up in the morning to going to bed, how much livestock produce does the average Brit eat or drink compared to fruit and vegetables and other things like bread? Anyway, if these COP28 types aren't prepared to go the whole hog of no meat for a week of talks, then why should the rest of us bother listening to them, let alone changing our whole way of life just because they say so? And that goes for the day these wannabe dictators also stop jetting around the world telling us we can't do exactly what they're doing. Now on this meat thing, the elites will no doubt be pushing this Frankenstein chemically made fake meat on us, trying to bolster up what is becoming a failed industry because hardly anyone wants to buy the stuff, where we have no idea what gunk they've put in it. For the greater good, you understand. But I know what's coming. You meat eaters out there are, yes, you've got it, far right.